Hey everyone, George with the Art of Water, and today we're going to do a profile on a species called the zebra Danio, otherwise known as Danio Rerio. This fish is originally from the Himalayas or northern parts of India and are no longer imported because of habitat destruction in that part of the world. But these are prolific breeders, and there are tons of them in an aquarium and fish stores around the United States because they are such prolific breeders. Males and females are easily identified. The males, if you look down at the top of your tank, you'll notice that their bodies are much slender, and they also have a goldish sort of tint to the coloring of their bodies. And the females, of course, are a little bit more stout and don't have quite that same coloration. These fish are considered one of the hardiest of all the fishes in freshwater aquariums because of their ability to actually survive without a heater. They can survive in temperatures as low as 70 to 72 degrees. I don't recommend doing that. I recommend that you treat them just like any other tropical fish and give them a heater and a filter. We're looking at a 10-gallon tank right here with about 7 or 8 fish in here. I'm not sure exactly how many are in this tank, but somewhere in that vicinity. But anyways, I keep this temperature right around 77 degrees, which they seem to enjoy and do really well. I also recommend that if you're going to start a tank and you are a little bit, well, let's just say you're a little impatient to get a tank going, this would be your fish to start a tank with. I don't recommend that. I do recommend that you cycle your tank and that you let it cycle before you add any fish. But if you're going to do that, this fish typically will be hardy enough if you do regular water changes and make sure that you're putting all the right minerals and things in your tank and watching all your water parameters. They can typically survive through a cycle. I would recommend a bigger tank than a 10-gallon. 10-gallon is a good size for as many fish as I have here, but the bigger the school, the better the fish do. And if you've got a 20-gallon tank or a 40-gallon tank, you can put as many as 20 of these in there, and they will do a very, very good job of entertaining you. These guys are really fast movers. They're one of the fastest fish I've ever seen. Actually, I lost one the other day because I was doing a water change and they jumped out of the water. There was nothing wrong with the water. The water parameters were perfect, but I guess he thought I was going to feed him or whatever, and I did not notice it. Came back in an hour later, and he was not doing well. So unfortunately, you got to watch for those kinds of things. They can be jumpers when it comes to doing water changes or not having a lid on your tank. I like to put aquarium lids on all of my fish tanks, but this particular breed in particular, I would suggest that you make sure that you're very careful when you're doing water changes or feeding them because they will tend to jump. The other thing I wanted to talk about with these fish are their aggressiveness. They can be fin nippers. So if you have tank mates that you might want to put in here with these guys, you might want to be extremely careful not to put them in a small tank where they're going to crowd out or be territorial because they will nip fins. They will even do it sometimes amongst themselves if their environment is overloaded with just too many of them. So like I said, the bigger the aquarium, the better. I like to really watch these fish. I mean, they're really fun to watch. They're very entertaining fish because they do have a lot of movement. They're not a fish that just sits around and you know, does their thing. They are basically on the move all the time. And even if you come in here at night, you will notice that these fish, even when they're sleeping or resting at night, that they're moving more than the average fish would be. So the Zebra Danio, I would give it, out of an 8 out of 10, as far as hardiness, I would give it a 9 or a 10, because these guys are very, very hardy fish. And again, if you want to start a tank with these, I don't really recommend doing that, but if you're impatient and you want to start a tank, make sure that you are, doing water changes. I do 50% water changes once a week, on an established tank, even though the tank is established, just to make sure that the water is crystal clear. Typically, I'll run CO2 on a tank like this. This particular one, I don't have the CO2 hooked up quite yet. We're going to get to that over the next few days and do a little bit more planting. I suggest that you plant as much as you possibly can with any tank as early as you can. Probably at the beginning of setting up the tank is best, but we're going to add a few plants to this here that are going to sort of develop a small carpet in the front. We decided to do that just because we thought that it would give it a nicer look. Anyways, the Zebra Danio, again, a very hardy fish. If you're looking to get some fish, like I said, try to cycle your tank first. If not, make sure you're adding a couple of things from a company called Seachem that is a great company. Number one, Seachem Stability. Every time you do a water change and daily, you should be putting some of this in the water to make sure that your biological system is stabilized and you're not causing problems for your fish if you are going to try to cycle your tank with these fish in there. Also, the second one is called Prime, which is a great water conditioner for any new tank. It keeps the water crystal clear, adds the nutrients and minerals to the tank, and also removes chloride and any other damaging things that might be in your water that could harm your fish. So again, this is George with the Art of Water. The Zebra Danio was our species profile today. Thank you for checking in with me. If you have any questions, please leave a comment. Also, give me a thumbs up and please subscribe. George with the Art of Water. We'll talk again soon.